We're rolling. Oh, now we're not rolling. Now we're rolling. Damage Plan MMA podcast, episode number 17. I am Jason Laporte, and I got my co-host, Mr. Zach Partridge here. How you doing, sir?
Good, man. How are you?
Good, man. Quarantine special number 2.
Number 2.
We're rolling.
I like it, though.
I do, too. I don't mind it at all. It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah. We got a lot going on, actually, for a change, though, in the quarantine now. And we have an awesome guest with Zac Cavender. What up, Big Zach?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you on, man. Steel Fist Pro Heavyweight Champ. How does that feel?
It's just another rung on the ladder to the top. I try to stay humble about my victories. Don't let it affect my training or my mindset. Just keep working hard.
So if the heavyweight champ's the baddest dude on the planet, does that mean you're the baddest dude in Utah?
Sometimes I try to push that out of my head, but I'd like to think so, but there's some bad dudes out there. I know there's some smaller guys that would probably rip my arm off if they wanted to.
So the dude that I've kind of always considered the baddest dude in Utah, and I'm pretty biased, is Ben Moa.
I've trained with Ben Moa before. Ben Moa was the first person to ever knock me off my feet. I went up to One Hit MMA and
really?
My first amateur fight, and he showed me what it was to be a fighter. I've sparred with Ben a few times.
My very first day sparring.
He's a very bad man.
Yeah, my very first day sparring ever. Aldo sent me in the cage at One Hit with Joe Rodriguez and Ben Moa. And I almost got knocked out by Ben.
Welcome to the gym.
Yeah, no, that was my first day of treatment too. Here, get in the cage. You're a big guy. And then you got Joe Rodriguez, Ben Moa, and 3 other big dudes. I was just a 205er at the time. And Ben Moa hit me with a straight cross.
Yeah, me too.
A cross hook combo. And it turned my head sideways. And by the time I got my head back, he hit me with another straight. And I didn't even know. I was just on my butt, wondering where I was, trying to stand up, not having a good time trying to stand up.
No.
Yeah, he gave me some trial by fire. So.
Yeah. He hit me right on my dome, right on the top of my forehead with what felt like a baseball bat. And I had no idea where – I was so scared. I was swinging for the fences at him, I was terrified. And he hit me right, and I was stumbling. And Crystal Smith, thankfully, she was in the cage kind of watching, and she was like, okay, you're done. Come here. And I was like, yeah, I'm done. Look over to Aldo. I'm like, I'm out, dude. Thanks for inviting me to sparring, you old jerk.
That's funny. We've had similar experiences.
Did you get to train with anybody for your last fight, Zach? Did you have anybody, any other heavyweights, local heavyweights you were training with for this last fight in January?
Yeah, we have a few big guys that are locals to Tooele. Most of them are mainly grapplers, but a few of them have some decent stand-up backgrounds as well. None of them are actual fighters. There's one guy, his name is Matt Williams. He's actually a personal trainer at Vasa. He's a head personal trainer. He's a pretty experienced grappler, and he has a decent striking background. He was a pretty good continuous partner. And then also one of my friends named Tyler. He's a pretty good grappler, and he was about 250 pounds. And he'd give me a pretty rough time. He was probably my most constant training partner, and he loves violence just as much as I do. So we were always ending up going pretty hard during fight camps.
Your last fight was about as violent as they get.
Yeah.
In a short, compact time.
That's how I like them. That's how I try to keep them anyways.
So I have to admit, and Jason will back me up on this. I said you were going to win that fight. I called it.
Yeah.
And I thought that, I have a lot of respect for Eric, and he's tough. And Ben's even told me that was probably Ben's toughest fight when they fought. They had a freaking war for that same belt. And, I just thought that kind of your speed, youth, and overall MMA was going to be the deciding factor there. But your striking looked levels up than I remember the last time that I saw you get in some exchanges. What have you been working on the most with that, or who's been helping you with your striking the most?
My head coach, Keith Asbury, and our striking and boxing coach, Brandon McQuillan, have both really been pushing me hard to improve my striking. I mean, most people in the cage, they already thought I was a striker. I don't know where this misconception comes from. Maybe it's because I'm tall. And I mean, I've never really go for takedowns because I just like to fight wherever the fight's at. I always try to keep a good fight IQ. And if they're a striker, I'd ideally like it on the ground, and if they're a grappler, I'd ideally like it to stand.
Sure.
But I feel like striking, contrary to everyone's belief, was actually my weaker discipline. And my coaches didn't think so. They knew that because they're my coaches and they've seen me grapple. They know how effective I am with both my wrestling and my submission grappling.
Yeah.
And so we just worked hard, had privates, so much pad work and bag work, and just working on trying to utilize all of my weapons in reach. With me being a southpaw that can switch stance, I mean, I can literally throw. I try to practice every single combination and every single move I have on both sides, orthodox and southpaw, so that I really am just the most dynamic fighter and I'm never on the wrong foot or at a disadvantage. But yeah, so training against Eric Iman, obviously the plan wasn't to strike with that giant behemoth of a man, because I've seen him put people down and I didn't want to get put down by him. But I mean, it just ended up short and we didn't have to grapple much. I tried to grapple with him on a cage and it was kind of like trying to grapple like an oak tree. So I'm glad it ended in 50 seconds because grappling oak trees isn't very fun.
Well, yeah, like, I mean, and I don't know where people get a misconception that you're not a striker, because if anybody's watched your fights, you're obviously good. I just felt like that there was a huge jump in skill level there. Like, you know, when they talk about levels, I don't know about you. So like when I like started grappling, I felt like from like 0 months to 3 months, like there's a huge jump. Like if you've only been training in jiu-jitsu for 3 months, but then you roll with somebody who's never been training, it's like Christmas, right? Like you,
yeah,
you
it's
know,
like playing with a little kid.
Yeah. And then I felt like there was like another jump around like the 9 month to 12 month mark. There's like, and I just feel like there's like these breakthroughs, and it just looked like you had this breakthrough where you look like not just a solid striker, but an extremely dynamic striker that was in total control of your range, your combinations, the shots you were trying to set them up with. Like it was super impressive, man.
Thank you. That's really nice to hear, because that's really what we were trying to do. We were trying to really turn me into that next level striker. And it has been a bit of a layoff between that last fight and my fight before that. And really the main focus has been striking. I didn't have a break. I didn't take any time off. I know a lot of people, they'll have a fight camp where they train once a day or twice a day, and they only do that for maybe the first month or two before their fight. But from my last fight in May until my fight in January, I trained twice a day, almost every single day, even through the holidays.
Well, it's a little bit hungrier too. You're coming off officially, it was your first loss, right?
Yeah. No, that definitely, that had some fire. There was some fuel for my fire for sure.
I feel like we're kind of in this together, because I felt like went through the same thing with our first losses. I was in one of your hearings where you were, trying to plead your case with the commission, if you remember.
Yeah, I remember that. The second one.
About maybe getting that looked at to a no contest, or maybe because, and I'm sure you feel pretty similar to the way I do about our first loss. Like, I don't really feel like I lost the fight. Kind of feels like you don't feel that way either.
When the referee stopped the fight, I was literally on top of the guy. Like, how can I be knocked out when I just swept the guy and got on top of him?
Right.
You know? And even the referee, I don't have any bad feelings against the referee, and I want a lot of people to stop thinking that I do, and I want people to stop having bad feelings about the referee, because he was just trying to do his job, and everyone makes mistakes. And as soon as he looked at the replay, he came up to me in the cage and apologized, you know. And then for my appeal, he actually wrote an official letter saying that he made a mistake. And it didn't come, the issue is it doesn't come down to whether the referee makes a mistake or not. It comes down to the actual rules. And hopefully they're still working to change that, so eventually I'll get my loss stripped from my record and I'll be an undefeated fighter again. But until then, you know, I just gotta take it with a grain of salt, learn from it. You know, it's always like losing is a good learning experience, so it's okay to have that.
I just wanted to interrupt both of you guys and just applaud both of you guys on how both of you guys handled that loss after those controversial loss. Both of you guys both got, you know, Zach, I think you got on, if I remember right, you got on the mic and told everybody to chill. Cavender, and then Partridge, same thing, telling everybody to chill and relax and not to be booing. So I applaud you guys for your sportsmanship after going through that controversial loss, because I don't think you see that a lot in MMA.
Yeah, I guess it definitely depends. I don't know. I think smaller weight classes tend to have a lot of attitude problems and ego issues. I think they're the ones that really get in there and like to fight to hurt people. But when you get to
Boomer,
the
that's a
higher weight
shot.
classes,
That's a shot at Boomer.
Shot of Boomer.
Boomer's a special exception. That is a very kind-hearted and sweet man, just like myself.
But he's
But
a killer.
for the most part, I mean, you've heard of little man syndrome, but that's a real thing. But like us bigger guys, I don't know. I haven't one time had any hostile intentions or anger against a guy I fought in the cage.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I feel like that definitely helps. Accepting a bad controversial loss like that is trying not to be mad at the people whose it's not their fault.
Yeah. It's not their fault.
That was my biggest thing when I went with the fight with Ryan. I didn't want people booing him because it's like he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, just doing what you're supposed to do.
He fought till the ref stopped it. He didn't do anything wrong. Why does he get booed? If I was in his shoes, I'd be pissed if people were booing me. Like you didn't do anything. So, but yeah, but you get a little fuel to the fire. So hopefully I can have my return to the cage can look a lot like yours.
Hey, I have no doubt that it will. You work exceptionally hard. You're with a good camp. So I see nothing but success for you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So with all that being said, with all this going on, with the UFC and Dana White trying to like push for finding solutions and not just accepting to stay home till September or whenever, what's on your radar? What are you looking for? What's next for Big Zac?
I wish I could tell you. I really wish I could. I really wish I could find a fight or find someone to fight. I am currently training, and I'm training heavily. I tried to keep quiet about it, but I hurt my wrist pretty bad when I knocked out Eric Hyman. It was pretty messed up for a couple months. It made it hard to train. But I am back training full time, even though there's a giant layoff and many promotions aren't doing shows right now. And their most recent show they would have is being pushed back. So there's definitely a long wait list for fights. But I did just switch to the heavyweight category, and I'm still an undersized heavyweight. So it's giving me more time to focus on some traditional weightlifting and powerlifting to try to put on some weight, as opposed to focusing 100% on my cardiovascular conditioning, which sometimes makes it hard to keep on weight. So, I mean, I try to look at the good. I think there's a little bit of good with every bad. And so I'm just trying to stay positive, do what I can to become a more effective fighter. But unfortunately, right now, there's no fights on the horizon. If you know of one, though, you let me know. I'm getting ready to start causing a racket at Walmart. Man, I need to fight somebody.
Yeah, Zac. We'll work on something for you.
Yeah. Hopefully,
I try and have my fingers in a little bit of everything. So we'll see what we can do for you. So I want to talk more about that jump from 205 to heavyweight.
Yeah.
Was that already in your mind before it got? Kevin Patton made that post on who do we want to see fight for the heavyweight title in Utah, and Eric Hyman's name got thrown out, but I think it was Keith that first tagged you in it. And I'm like, in my eyes, you're a 205er, but I'm like, I mean, you have every bit the frame to be every bit of a heavyweight that, I mean, and you looked phenomenal at heavyweight. You looked, you go against somebody like Eric, and it was like coming from 205, it was like, I hope that, you could always see a size difference when somebody's kind of newer to a weight class or whatever, or in the wrong weight class. You looked every bit like a heavyweight.
Oh yeah, for
thick
sure.
in all the right areas. You were strong. And when I say thick, I mean built out and filled out. Like, were you killing yourself to get to 205 and the heavyweight was coming, or what?
Well, so it's kind of weird. Thanks for the compliments, by the way. So when I first took my very first amateur fight at 205, I actually weighed in at 203, but that morning I only weighed 199 pounds. I tried to eat as much food as I could, and I waterlogged myself to try to appear heavier because, a 6'5" guy weighing sub 200 pounds fighting at 205, that's not very good. But I was already so lean, cutting to, middleweight wasn't really ideal for me, especially because as you get older, you tend to maintain your weight. And that's kind of how it was, even through all my amateur fights, all at 205. I never had to cut weight. As soon as I walked around at like 220, but as soon as I got into a serious camp, the weight just came off and I'd end up at about 205. And my first pro fight was a heavyweight fight, but it was more of a catch weight. I weighed 212 and the guy weighed 218. It was a short notice fight. We were both true 205ers. But my first and last fight at LFA, the one where I lost, it was also at 205. And I don't know if it was like I finally hit puberty or something, but like I had put on about 10 pounds since my last fight. So I was sitting at 230 to 235, depending on what I'd eaten that day. But the weight just was not coming off. And I'd been working to increase like my lean muscle mass, so I had a more competitive weight cut, but I barely made 206 for that fight. And I was killing myself to keep the weight off.
I'm interested.
And I'd never had to experience that. Even when I was a wrestler in high school, most people don't know that. I tried to keep it under wraps, but I was a wrestler in high school. I never had to cut weight. I always just wrestled the weight above. I didn't care to cut weight. I was too busy lifting weights and flirting with women to try to not so much gangster, but to try to worry about weight cuts, But yeah, so then when he called me, I knew eventually I'd end up at heavyweight. I didn't know it'd be so early because it was such a sudden change. But how I found out about the fight was Keith called me after he saw the post. He's like, "Hey, there's this and this on Facebook. Do you want to fight at heavyweight against Eric Iman?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it." At the time, I was sitting at about 235 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
And through the whole camp, I just stayed about that weight, 230 to 235.
What'd you weigh in at?
So, 232, I believe.
So what's your like ideal weight to get at if you're going to fight heavyweight?
I think with my frame, I would be at the most athletic advantage by sitting around 245, plus or minus 5 pounds. I feel like being 6'5", I have a decent wingspan as well. I don't want to be much heavier than that because I do, you watch all the greatest heavyweights, DC and Stipe. What did they weigh their last fight? 229 and 232. Yeah. I'm a bigger guy than both of them. So if I can add another 10, 15 lean pounds to me, but maintain my speed and my athleticism, like I think anybody over 180 pounds has knockout power in every single limb of their body.
For sure.
And I don't need to overdo it by adding an excessive 20 pounds that might slow me down, reduce my mobility, or affect my cardiovascular conditioning.
So let me ask you this, kind of change directions a little bit, and I don't mean to deviate too much, but because I have more questions for you to talk about that. What do you think? We talked about like weight classes and stuff like that. Do you think that there should be like a 225-pound weight class? That jump between 205 and like 265, that's a ginormous weight class.
Huge.
Like you said, if your sweet spot right now is like 235 and your cut only had to be 10 pounds to 225, you're huge, but there's dudes that are cutting down to 265.
Yeah. Eric had to cut down.
Yeah.
And obviously we saw how that worked out, but it's like, you guys are hard. Damn, like it seems crazy to me to all of a sudden at that weight just to have a 60-pound gap in weight class.
Yeah, in a perfect world, we would ideally have probably a 225-pound weight class. I believe it's called cruiserweight.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, mixed martial arts, while it's worldwide, it's still an emerging sport, and I don't think there's enough competitive bodies to fill another weight class up at the at the higher levels. There's not enough large people that are athletic and want to fight. Everyone knows it, and I'm not afraid to say it. 205-pound weight class and 265-pound light heavyweight and heavyweight are the weakest divisions in MMA. And it's just because there's not a lot of bodies.
Yeah.
And when you can look at the records, to be a lightweight in the UFC or the PFL or Bellator or One Championship, you have to be an absolute killer. You have to have double-digit wins, very few losses. You have to be a monster. But, you look at some of the guys that are at the top of the competition at 205, 265, and there's not nearly the caliber of fighters. There's still definitely skilled fighters, but there's not as much competition and there's not as many people because it's just, there was an interesting statistic once when I went to my doctor probably 5 years ago. I was in the 99th percentile for height. So out of every 100 people standing in a row, I was the second tallest, and there was only one person taller than me. And height definitely has a lot to do with weight. I mean, you can argue with Ilir Latifi about that because he's a fat midget. But generally, taller people weigh more, and there's just not a lot of us, and it keeps the weight classes shallow, which is good for me because that's less people I have to fight to get to the top and less dangerous people I have to fight to stay at the top. But it's just not viable to have a 225 class.
So right now, yes, but I think we're about to go. I think we're entering like this golden new age of MMA. We're starting.
100%.
We're going to start getting a wave of kids and people that have been doing this now for 10 plus years. They started as kids. The fact is, I'm 31, you're 25, right?
Correct.
There aren't very many people our age that started this as like little kids and pre-teenage.
No, I started as a wrestler in high school, and I didn't start any other martial arts training until I was 17.
And we can already see those junior high school wrestlers, they already have an advantage in the sport.
Yeah.
Wait till we get the full wave of kids that started doing jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, Muay Thai, and wrestling at like 8 years old.
Yeah. Well, and there's just going to be more of them too. Not only are they more dangerous, but now because there used to never be any money in the sport, even the top guy in the UFC didn't make good money.
I mean, not to disclose.
But now everyone watches it. Everyone loves it.
Yeah.
Kids are starting younger, and more people are going to want to do it. And fortunately for us, it's the golden age of MMA. We're only just going to see more deadly fighters.
We're just at the peak of it, though.
Yeah.
We're just at the peak of it. It's coming because I think in the next 5 to 10 years, the UFC is going to be full of kids that started training when they were 8 to 10 years old. And
absolutely.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, you see, if you watch the Contender series, you already see some extremely young faces on there. There was an 18-year-old kid, I think, 2 seasons ago. I'm trying to remember his name. Phenomenal grappler. He fought a Hawaiian and got pretty messed up in striking the first round, and then dominated the second or third round. He didn't get picked up for the UFC, but he got a developmental contract, which is an 18-year-old. What more could you ask for?
What more could you ask for? I mean, it's almost perfect.
It's amazing, yeah.
We almost saw at an 18 years old, what was it? Sage Northcutt. He almost got fed to the Lions a little bit too quick, right? But,
high chain for sure.
They had something like that for him where he could have developed a little quick sooner. They could have really built him into something else. But he was a little bit more one-dimensional coming in. He was a striking specialist.
Yeah.
We're going to start.
Well, and they did that to both. Sorry, go ahead.
I think we're going to start seeing an age of I train with Cole Faust. We're going to see an age where it's like, if you haven't been doing jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and then mixed in wrestling through junior high and high school and stuff, when you started at 5, 6, you don't stand a shot.
Exactly. Well, and that's how it is now with, you look at the NBA, the NFL. If you didn't play in high school and you didn't play in college, you're not going to play in the big leagues. You have
no
to
chance.
be groomed to be a professional ball player. Baseball too, extremely competitive. And it's even even if you're not playing some sort of youth league or little league, when you go to try to play high school football for the first time with a bunch of people that have been playing for 5 years, you're at a disadvantage.
The only people that make it are the elite of the elite athletes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So, but it's going to be really fun. But I'm just going to make my last case for you, Zach, on this 225.
You're selling it. Zach's selling the 225, baby.
I just think it belongs. But listen to this. John Jones at 225. Dominic Reyes would probably be an amazing 225. Thiago Santos. But then you get into the Anthony Smith, Blackowitz, Corey Anderson. Those 205ers are probably more natural 205ers.
Absolutely.
Gustafson, right? Gustafson's I think so. I look at all these guys and Johnny Walker. I see all these guys, these tall guys. And then I look at you and I'm like, how different is that DC John Jones fight at heavyweight or at 225 than 205? How much is DC?
Absolutely.
How much is DC compromising himself and giving up his power and diminishing himself at 205? Is it a different fight, or is John Jones just so much better at 225 or at heavyweight that he beats him even worse? Like, it's a question for me, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to say who would have the bigger advantage at 225 as opposed to 205. You know, some people respond really well to weight cuts too, and some people don't respond well to it. Some people take weight cutting extremely seriously, and some people just try to get a minor weight cut. So it would really be kind of a neat experience to see if that 225 weight class got put in there, who would come up from 205 and who would come down from 265. You know, because there's a lot of heavyweights and 205ers that are not the most lean they can be. I see plenty of 205ers and heavyweights that do not want to put in the work to not even just do a weight cut, but just to healthily lose some weight to make it down to the next weight class.
Well,
and see, I don't really believe in a hard competitive weight cut that dehydrates you. I think it's just not good for your health overall. But I always think, like, if you want to get in the cage, you better be healthy, you better be lean, and you should be at a competitive weight class.
Yeah.
You know?
And the higher level you get, the more important the correct weight class is, right?
Exactly, because the higher level you get, you suddenly realize that whoever gets tired first dies, and that's an absolute rule. You know, if you don't have enough conditioning to stay in it with your opponent, they can just drown you. They can be the worst fighter. It doesn't matter. They will win if you get tired.
Yeah. I mean, it's just hard. Now I'm looking at some of those heavyweights, and it's just different. Like Stipe and DC, like, yeah, they can beat a guy like Derek Lewis or Francis Ngannou, but like, they're just a completely different weight class to me.
Absolutely. No, they're a much smaller person. Their shoulder size, you know, their frame, you can literally look at like the thickness of their bones, the size of their feet. You know, Stipe is so much smaller than Francis. He does not belong in the same weight class. Like Stipe would be an ideal candidate for 225.
Yet Francis couldn't knock him out in 5 rounds. Crazy. And then, I mean, to your point, I'll finish on giving you a plus on your point. Number 15 ranked heavyweight in the UFC right now is a guy named Creole Gain. He's 6-0.
Yeah, that dude's an animal. Have you seen him fight? I watched his last fight. He was fighting that dude that came off the Contender Series. That's also a pretty accomplished boxer.
Yeah, that Tanner Boser.
Man. What was his name?
Tanner Boser.
Yeah, but like it was a pretty good stand-up game. But what's his name? Ghani. I think he's a European kickboxer. Just such good stand-up, and ended up finishing the guy. Dropped into a heel hook right at the end. And put him in a quick heel hook, and that's really cool to see a striker know how to throw on a heel hook. And it's even more cool to see a striking heavyweight throw on a heel hook. That's a lot of big guys. They don't even know what a leg locks are. What's a leg lock?
I mean, you talk about lack of depth. He has 6 professional fights. He's 6-0.
Mm-hmm. But you see, I mean, at the heavyweight category, how many other fighters are in the UFC with less than 10 wins? Yeah. There's quite a few of them.
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, the depth's just not there in the sport yet, but we're getting there.
It's coming. It's on its way.
So you like look around. I think so I ask everybody this. Do you consider yourself more of a fan or a fighter?
I'm definitely more of a fighter.
Do you watch a lot of the events?
I do. I watch a lot of UFC events, almost all of them. And then I watch a lot of LFA events. I watched the PFL their last season. Awesome. I don't really watch Bellator too much because then that's a lot of MMA to be doing it, training twice a day and then watching all those events. But I go to every single local show.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always see you there. So I have a name for you who I think you should set your eyes on though.
Oh yeah?
Throw it out there.
You know who I want to see you fight?
Who do you want to see me fight?
That Steve Mowry guy at Bellator. He's the guy that beat Ben Mo on Bellator.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that tall
guy, yeah. Tall.
Yeah, I watched his footage.
Yeah. I mean, he's 6'7", right?
Mm-hmm.
Heavyweight, but
his reach is horrible though for his height. I have a longer reach than he does.
I'm just gonna say it, and I mean we're a pretty small podcast at this point, but I hope word gets back to him somewhere. Somebody listening somewhere to this. He is so lucky Ben broke his hand on the first exchange. It's not even funny, and I think he's like 5-0 or something as a pro.
Yeah, I want to say he's about that.
And that I think that's the man that you should mark an X on and gun for.
Yeah, I mean I'd enjoy fighting him. I think that'd be a good challenge.
So he's up to 7-0 now.
It's going to be hard to find a local guy after your last fight.
Yeah, the pool's already pretty shallow, and
Is
I've
there
already
anybody local for you?
always have. No, there's not really no one that I can think. I mean, there's a few amateurs that just went pro, but they probably need a couple more fights before fighting for a belt. But I mean, I'm only 3-1. It's not like I have a super stacked record altogether.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, it's a fun time to be a fighter. I'm super jealous and envious of you. I wish I would have gotten into this when I was a little bit younger, so that could have had a little bit longer. You're in a great spot. I mean, you say only 4 fights, but you're only 25, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's funny. I mirror your feelings. I'm the exact same way. I am jealous of everyone that's younger than me and started even earlier than me. I wish I could have started earlier than just after high school.
Yeah. Me too. That's why I was football, baseball, basketball all the way through. And now I look back and I wish I didn't do, I don't know. I loved football, but I wish I would have gave up on basketball and baseball a lot earlier and I would have been doing this.
Yeah. There's absolutely no substitute for time in the gym. There's nothing that can replace it. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you're not putting your time into the gym and perfecting your craft, and mixed martial arts, as dynamic as it is, and how many things you have to practice and learn and be good at, there really is just no substitute for time in the gym.
Do you watch guys on like the UFC and LFA and stuff? Are you watching them as a fan, or are you watching them to figure out how you think you'd stack up against them?
Both. I make sure I watch every single light heavyweight and heavyweight fight in both the LFA as well as the UFC, because those are, future opponents, or they are mentors that I can see what they do right and utilize that, see what they do wrong, and make sure I never do that. I definitely study the higher weight classes and the way they fight. And I mean, you can learn anything from anybody at weight class. I've picked up a few tricks from lighter fighters as well, because I try to fight more like a lighter weight. I try to be more agile than some of the heavyweights and light heavyweights that just rely on one large punch to finish fights. But I do absolutely enjoy watching fighting, even if it's just that World Star crap online where it's 2 people that don't know how to fight that are trying their hardest.
It's still fun to watch.
Who doesn't like to watch a fight? We're all human.
Yeah.
Fighting's awesome and it's in our blood. But I absolutely do analyze fights as well.
Who's your favorite fighter?
My favorite fighter. It's hard. It's so hard. There's so many good people and good fighters out there, and then there's good fighters that aren't good people and you like to watch them fight, but you don't like who they are as a person.
Yeah.
And then there's good people that just aren't very exciting as fighters, It's really hard to pick a favorite. I mean, one of my favorite human beings is DC for sure. I definitely look up to him.
Yeah.
And admire him, who he is as a person and how he conducts himself.
So do you dislike John Jones?
I don't. And I think everyone gives him a lot of crap for doing things that normal everyday humans do. I've never been in trouble with the law because I've been lucky enough to never get caught by the law. But for someone to live their entire life without making a mistake or sinning or enjoying recreational drugs, that's such a small % population. And yeah, you need to conduct yourself better because you're in the public eye. But it's not like he's ever gone out and murdered someone or committed domestic violence.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, that's a pretty bad mistake. And it sucks seeing that he did that and now he's in trouble again for a DWI. It's like, when do you learn? I don't, like I said, I don't dislike him. Unfortunately, I wanted DC to definitely be the better person in that rivalry. That's not always the case, though. The good guy doesn't always win. Well, but I wouldn't say I dislike John Jones. He's a human. Everyone's human.
I just want him. When I watch sports, I just want to see greatness. I'd love to be in a world where I didn't just personally dislike somebody and I could just root for greatness all the times. And what pisses me off about John Jones is I feel like he's creating a legacy of what could have been instead of what is, and that's on him. Because who
Well,
does.
and it's hard because his whole career has been marred with controversy, with performance enhancers, and then just the antics that he,
Yeah, but man, it's
happens
like,
to get himself into outside the cage.
so how come somebody like DC he never has issues with picograms or anything like that?
Some people like to tote the line a little more than
Yeah,
others.
it's
But do you think he's
unfortunate.
just lucky that he never got caught for anything?
Well, and so I do believe that performance enhancers are a problem in mixed martial arts. Not as much in the UFC because they use USADA, who's so
Sure.
crazy and controversial. But I mean, if you look at the one championship, like half their guys are on juice. All you have to know is you just have to look at them. You just have to have eyes
Yeah.
to know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think John Jones used to use performance enhancers. I don't think he does anymore. I think it was in his past, but when you look at the old UFC compared to the new UFC, it was literally just a bunch of guys on steroids trying to kill each other in a cage. There wasn't much skill, much conditioning to it. But then when you got the hybrids, the people that were phenomenal fighters, but were still using the performance enhancers, like you just had to fight fire with fire. But now USADA's taken over, and like it doesn't have a place in the sport anymore.
Yeah.
But it's hard to, especially in the higher weight classes where there's still, every other month there's someone getting banned for substance or performance enhancers. It's hard to say, well, like maybe I can get away with this, but if I don't, I'll absolutely be at a disadvantage. And some people just like to take the risk versus guys like DC. I mean, his body isn't, he doesn't look like he uses steroids by any means, but it doesn't mean you have to look like a steroid user to use them.
For sure.
But I just don't think he's the kind of person that would ever even try that, And so it sucks to see someone like him lose to someone so marred with controversy, such as John Jones. But, life's not fair.
Yeah.
And no one gets to play God except your God himself. So,
yeah. I mean, like I said, you're right. I mean, maybe fans should ease up on John a little bit about some of it, but it's just like, that's what bugs me. I don't really care. I don't care about anything. I've heard a lot of people say that, he does that, but then tries to tout that he's like this amazing Christian too, and thinks Jesus and all that. And everybody's relationship with Jesus and God is different. So whatever, to each their own. I don't really care. But it's like, I was really excited about this run that he's been on. Cause it's like, I was hoping he turned a leaf, grown up a little bit, and could go on this amazing run that I've been without any, blemishes, get the picograms behind him, get all that behind him. He goes on an 8-year run, tears through, cleans out the light heavyweight, goes up to heavyweight, and we see greatness. That's all I want from him.
Yeah. I don't think you'll ever see that kind of greatness from John Jones.
Nope.
Not the way things are trending. I agree.
No.
Go ahead, Zach.
I was just gonna say that's like my dislike. I don't root against him. I don't watch. There's some guys I tune into because I hope they get knocked out. He's not one of them. I want him. I think he had the potential to be an all-time great, and he's just not maximizing it. And as a fan of sports in general, it just bums me out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard to blame someone for not dedicating 20%. I mean, 24/7, 100% of their life to greatness of the sport, and forego being human altogether. It's just hard to try to hold someone to that.
You are right, sir.
What since we're on the topic of favorite fighters, do you have a favorite local fighter? And I think I already know who you're going to pick, so it can be one from your gym and one outside of your gym.
One from my gym and one outside my gym.
Yeah, if you had a favorite,
you're making me pick favorites within my gym.
Well, you can just do. I figured I knew who you were going to pick, so I wanted to get an outside of your gym opinion more than anything, because I know you got some studs in your gym too.
Yeah, and if they gang up on me, they can still beat me up. I'm scared to say which one I want to see fight again the most.
Could Kieran and Boomer take you if they both?
I think if one went low and one went high, or all Kieran has to do is take me down. I got nothing to answer for his takedowns.
Well, yeah, he's clearly able to do that at will. So
That's what he said.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely want to see Boomer fight again. I've never seen someone more hardworking or determined or talented than Boomer.
I loved watching
so meticulous.
I loved watching his last fight with was it Eastwood when he won the belt. You could see that he was listening to his corner. You could see his movement in the ring. You could tell in the cage. You could tell he was listening to what those guys were saying because he kept moving. He kept moving side to side, side to side. He wasn't giving Eastwood a chance. Wasn't giving Eastwood that chance to go for that takedown, and just picked him apart the whole fight. That was impressive for a young fighter like that.
Yeah, I mean his fight IQ is off the charts. His patience, his discipline, and he never lets his emotions get the better of him. He's always 100% sounded himself in the cage, But like just meeting Kieran too, he's one of my favorite people, and I'd absolutely love to see him fight again. He will. I mean, nothing's going to stop him now. He works. All he needed was the right place to be. It's not that he's not talented or that he can't be a great fighter.
Yeah.
He's just never had a team to support him and be behind him. And I know that, while there's only two people in the cage with mixed martial arts, it's absolutely a team sport. And I mean, I don't think you need to be an American top team to be one of the top fighters, but you need a sound program, you need training partners, and you need coaches. You need exposures to different people. And the biggest thing is you need training partners. You have to have training partners. You don't have to have the best training partner. You need a little more than a warm body as a training partner. But I think he'll definitely go far.
I told him on the podcast. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, my favorite fighter that I'd like to see locally again outside my gym, though. I mean, that's.
I know it's open.
You should have given me time to think on this. You should have sent me the questions before so I'd have an answer prepared, because there's a lot. I like a lot of people. I feel like while I'm more of an introvert, I still feel like I'm a pretty social person, and I get along with a lot of people. Obviously, I want to see Mr. Zach Partridge here get back in and take that belt back. I do really think
you, sir.
He deserves the belt, and I think he got robbed on that submission.
What do you think about, speaking of heavyweights, what do you think about Kent going pro? He'll be having his first pro fight pretty soon.
That's interesting. I'm really curious to see that. I remember he was in the cage with me after he won his amateur title and I won my pro title. It was after the night. We were taking a few pictures together, and he made a joke on how he was going to go down to 205. But he's a pretty big guy. I don't know if he can make it down to 205 the same way I can't anymore. So I'll be watching him. He's a really cool guy. He's a skilled fighter. He works hard. He's shown a lot of improvement.
He works
and he might honestly be an opponent down the road. So I'm absolutely watching him, all of his fights. But like I said, if you're in a 205 or heavyweight category, I watch all your fights regardless.
Very nice.
So
what's with the plant-based protein drink you got going on there?
Oh, this is one of my sponsors, Garden of Life.
Is it really? Oh, nice.
Yeah, they hooked me up with a bunch of stuff. They hooked me up with these pre-made proteins as well as a protein powder. I also have a pre-workout supplement and a multivitamin I use through them. I made the decision after my last fight to go. I went full vegan for a month, and then I went vegetarian for 3 months. The original plan was to go vegetarian throughout my next fight camp and see how it affected my with mixed martial arts, because it's all about leaving no stone unturned. Like, I want to be the best fighter I can be, and if that means I need to alter my diet, even in an extreme way, that's what I have to do. It's my job, and that's what I will do. And I read tons of studies and watched the one viral movie, The Game Changers, which is extremely biased, by the way. But I was really trying to improve my cardiovascular endurance as a heavyweight. I think that's extremely important, and it's really hard for a big person to do because we have to eat so much food. And there's a lot of research showing meat, especially red meat, as a vasoconstrictor. And that's, a lot of people don't know, but your blood is more important than your lungs when it comes to putting oxygen to the muscles in your body. So vasodilation is extremely important. So I went full on. I tried vegan for a month. That was a little extreme. intense for me. I didn't mind not eating meat, but having cheese was a really big bummer. I do love cheese. But then I went vegetarian for 3 months, and then this whole coronavirus thing happened. And it was just a really long time for an experimental diet. I wasn't able to train as constantly and as hard as when I was in a full fight camp. And I have no fight in sight so far. So I actually just stopped being a vegetarian, and I'm back to a full omnivore diet. But I still use Garden of Life absolutely for my protein supplements, because it absolutely plant protein digests 100% easier than any other protein I've ever taken.
Are they a local company?
Yeah, they're actually based out of Utah.
Oh, interesting. Does Keith and Brandon help you with your nutrition up there, or Ty? Does anybody help you with that, or do you guys kind of on your own in your fight camps when it comes to your nutrition?
So Ty with Get Fit with Ty, he helps me a lot with my nutrition. Anytime I have questions about my general health and wellness, he's normally the very first person I ask. And there's been several fight camps as an amateur where he controlled my entire strength and conditioning and diet program. I've received several diets through him. And he can do both omnivorous and vegetarian diets. And he's generally my main go-to guy for health, wellness, and nutrition questions. Absolutely.
Awesome. Hell yeah. It's good to have that dialed in.
So how'd you feel with the vegetarian versus vegan versus not?
The amount of food I had to eat was absolutely asinine. Like just eating these giant Tupperwares full of lentils and rice and other green stuff. The hardest part was the amount of food I had to eat. And it was hard. That was the issue, is it was hard to tell if it was having a positive effect or not, because I went from training twice a day, 6 days a week. And by training twice a day, I mean one session's 2 hours of hard strength and conditioning. And then the next session is a minimum of 2 hours, a maximum of 4 of some sort of MMA training. And I just don't emulate that same outside unless I'm in a fight camp. So even though I was still training twice a day, it wasn't nearly the intensity. And I was also babying a wrist injury. Right. And so it was hard to say whether it was actually benefiting me or not. So definitely did not benefit my stomach for the first week and a half. There was some very creative times on the toilet.
Okay. But how did you feel like training, like energy level, like everything was good, or took some?
I felt the exact same.
Yeah.
Honestly. I always tend to eat pretty healthy anyways. So it's not like I went from a really crappy frozen food meal diet to a vegetarian diet. I went from an extremely strict omnivorous diet to an extremely strict vegetarian diet. Gotcha. And I honestly I felt a lot of energy, but I always feel a lot of energy. I tend to be a kind of like hyperactive and goofy person anyways. Okay. I try not to let it show. I try to let everyone think I'm some big, mean heavyweight. But so I just always have a lot of energy. And so I just didn't really feel too different.
Good. That's awesome. Man, so, before we wrap up, what's your take on next weekend's fights?
My take on next weekend's fights, I think Tony Ferguson. Wait, what?
Are you in the pool yet? You're not in the pool for the Damage Plan MMA podcast pool for the fights?
Is there a fight pool?
Have you seen that, Zach?
Are you not in the group on Facebook?
He is.
Oh, I've taken a hiatus from social media.
We'll send you the link. Partridge will send you the info.
The whole social distancing thing. So I haven't been on Facebook. I'll get on Facebook for 2 minutes and then I end up off of it. I'll definitely get on that. Yeah, I looked at the card. It's a really good card.
Zach will send you over the info.
So what we got, Zach, for you send us $5, and then everybody that does it is going to pick the winners of all the fights, how they win. So submission, TKO, KO, or decision. And then if there's a round or goes the distance, and you're going to pick those, and whoever gets the highest points, first, second, and third is going to get paid out.
Oh yeah, I'm in for that. Send me the link.
I will. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm pretty excited about it.
Hopefully the authorities don't see this, because I don't live in Utah or anything where gambling's illegal.
It's not gambling. It's no different. This is our substitute March Madness. We didn't get to do March Madness.
This is our March Madness right here.
That's you basketball fans. I'm not. I'm not one of you people.
Yeah, the fact that we missed March Madness.
I'm a huge March Madness.
That was the second worst thing to miss the coronavirus costing us Tony versus Khabib.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no more Khabib, but we got Justin Gaethje, and I feel like now that that's become the reality and people gotten over the fact that Khabib's not fighting now, that people are just as excited to see Ferguson versus Gaethje.
Oh, I think it's going to be a phenomenal fight. I think it's a really good matchup. I think there's some interesting styles. What I see possibly stopping the fight early isn't as much as a knockout or submission. Obviously, if it's a knockout, it's probably going to be for Gaethje. If it's a submission, it's going to be for Ferguson.
Yeah.
But I could see another blood stoppage happening in the favor of Ferguson because Gaethje, I mean, except for his last fight where he finally learned how to move his head off center line, he doesn't really know what defense is. And Ferguson doesn't so much try to knock you out as I think he really tries to damage your body. And he makes a lot of his opponents bleed.
Yep.
And Gaethje just walks forward in close range where Ferguson likes to use his elbows and he likes to spin and rotate and take these weird angles. And I could see the fight, 5 rounds to accumulate cuts on your face from Ferguson's elbows. I could see the fight ending in a blood stoppage in Ferguson's favor.
Yeah, I actually don't think it gets out of the second round.
Yeah, I think
it's hard to say,
dude. Those two dudes. So like, this is how I see it: is both of them. Like, I think they both have amazing weapons, but both of their thing is they break people with their pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have two dudes that break people with pressure. Like, eventually, like, they can't just stand right in the middle in front of each other and nobody takes a step back. Like, something extremely violent and horrible is going to happen. And
like Alvarez Gaethje.
Huh?
Like the Alvarez Gaethje matchup.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think that it's just going to be super violent and it's going to be insane. It's going to be insane. And it's going to be Ferguson with like a spinning elbow that drops Gaethje and then or something. I mean, or Gaethje's going to hit that. I don't know, dude. Everybody says Gaethje hits like he has bricks in his hands too. Like, that he hits just ridiculously hard for 155. And Ferguson gets hit a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
Pettis dropped him.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I just think it's going to be pure chaos for like a round and a half before finally somebody gets clipped. And they're both great finishers. Like, if they hurt you, they're going to finish you.
I'm super excited for it.
Me as well.
You got any sneaky ones that you think is going to be great on that card, Zach?
Man, I looked at the card a couple days ago. I think just yesterday, actually. I'd have to look at it again. Do you have it right in front of you? Because there were some good fights.
Sure,
Jeremy Stevens is fighting Calvin Qatar.
I think Rosenstruck knocks out Ngannou.
Whoa!
Think so? You think he knocks him out?
Yeah, I'm calling the upset. I think Rosenstruck puts him down and finishes him.
Man, that would be crazy because Ngannou's like, this is supposed to be his time to go for the belt again, right?
Yeah.
That would put Rosen. So I think Uriah Hall and Jacare is crazy at middleweight.
Yeah, I think that'll be an exciting fight. Hopefully, they don't gas out. They both have some cardio issues.
Yeah.
And this is Jacare going down to 185.
Yeah, because he just came up to 205 and it didn't go so well for him. So he went back down to 185. Yeah, I think that'll be a good fight as long as it ends earlier rather than later. I think if that fight gets into the third round, it's going to be a lot of leaning against the cage and grappling for a superior position with gassed out bodies.
The Nico Price and Luque fight, I think, is going to be crazy. That's a rematch.
That's guaranteed violence.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So since Price lost to Luque since Price lost to Luque, Price has been on a crazy tear.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited for that one. I don't know. What are your feelings on Greg Hardy?
I think he is a phenomenal athlete, and I think he has a lot of fundamentals that he needs to master before he's truly a good mixed martial artist, but I think he will make a good mixed martial artist. And I think people, obviously, he's done one of the worst things you can do as a human being, and that's harm an innocent person with strength that they don't have, that you have.
Yeah.
But I think people need to stop dwelling on that and just, he's done his time for that. And they need to
Change,
let him
right?
turn over a new
Yeah.
leaf.
Yeah,
And
change.
like his last controversial loss for the inhaler, I think people need to stop giving him
That was
a
just an
bad time for
experience.
that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, and he got told by not the commission itself, but someone who worked for the commission that he could use it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, especially when you look at NFL players, their entire life from high school, they get a full ride scholarship to a college. Now that college does everything for them. It makes sure they're fed, it makes sure they're housed, it makes sure they're managed, it makes sure they're taken care of. And the only thing he has to do is focus on just playing football. And now he transitions to mixed martial arts and he's being treated the exact same. He gets managed, he shows up, all he has to do is train and fight. And so when someone with an official uniform and badge tells him he can and can't do something,
Yep.
he listens to him.
Yeah.
That's what he's been trained his entire life to do. And a lot of people say, well, he shouldn't have done it. It's like, well, that guy shouldn't have said, yes, he can do it when he didn't know if he could or not. And I don't think it's Greg Hardy's fault at all. Like if you're having an asthma attack, like, yeah, you could fight through an asthma attack. But if you don't have to, why? Especially when you have everything on the line in a cage and a guy just told you to use your inhaler, absolutely use your inhaler.
Yeah.
And people get mad at Greg Hardy, and I think they're putting blame on the wrong person.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people just want to hate Greg Hardy for who he is. And I mean, he's kind of a cheesy dude. He picked a really weird, lame nickname.
What is it? Prince of
the
War?
Prince of War.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not big on nicknames at all.
Yeah, you don't have one.
But like something like that's just cheesy. And maybe that's the reason I don't want a nickname. So I don't end up with something like that. And people making fun of me on a podcast when that dude could probably beat me up. But like, I think people should stop giving Greg Hardy such a hard time.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So I mean, he's actually one of the guys that I do tune in to watch get knocked out because, like you said, what he did was horrible. But you know what? That changed for me in the Volkov fight because he was at a obvious skill disadvantage, right? He took the fight on short notice, and that showed me that I think he's serious about the sport. He's working hard. He's in a good camp, and everybody in his camp says he's nothing but nice and professional. And so I'll just take their word for it. He has, I feel like, good people like Din Thomas in his corner and stuff like that, that it's like, if he says he's nothing but nice and professional now, yeah, I mean, he lost his career as an NFL player. He did his time. Like he did, like you said, he did something that's horrible that I can't respect, but I can respect the path that he's on now. I do want to see him get knocked out though. Like I want to see him get starched cold.
That might happen. Heavyweights, you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
But he's a different level athlete. Those NFL guys are just different level athletes than a lot of these guys. Well, I mean, that's pretty much it. Zach, you got any other sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I got a few of them. I have this one sponsor. It was actually my very first sponsor. They've been with me since the beginning. Damage Plan Athletics. Sound familiar?
Yes, sir.
Exactly. Always big shout out to Damage Plan Athletics, even on their own podcast. They've been supporting me, outfitting me since the beginning. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Then, of course, you have my supplement sponsor, Garden of Life. They always send me care packages every single month. Extremely helpful, especially with me coming up to heavyweight, because the amount of calories I have to consume is a nightmare. So it's really helpful to have all this supplemental protein and to know that I'm getting enough vitamins and minerals. So thank you, Garden of Life. Then you have the Tool Martial Arts Academy. It's where I call home. Never leave there. I have a great crew out there. Phenomenal program. If you're really serious about fighting, you move out to Twilly, you come to the Tool Martial Arts Academy, and we'll never do you wrong. There's Get Fit with Ty. They still handle a lot of my strength and conditioning and my diet program. So big shout out to Ty Bateman. Thank you for that. There's Tranquility Massage and Spa. They make sure that I don't get too broken during my fight camps and during all my training. They do a really good job taking care of my body with some therapeutic massages. If you've never had a therapeutic massage before and you're any sort of athlete, I absolutely suggest you get one, especially if you do any sort of weightlifting. The amount of muscle tightness and knots you develop, there's literally no there's no replacement for therapeutic massage. You can stretch and that helps a little, but it's still not the same as a therapeutic massage. And you can foam roll, and that's kind of like a cumbersome, less skilled therapeutic massage. Absolutely get a massage. So thanks, Tranquility Massage and Spa. And then my realtor, Jenny, the foodie realtor, she takes care of me. So y'all know Jenny. She's good. She can buy and sell houses throughout all of Utah except St. George, I believe. So even if you're in Ogden, West Valley, Salt Lake City, and you want someone that'll really take care of you, that can do any kind of loan. She helped me with my VA loan. Definitely, you can contact me, and I can get you in touch with Jenny, the foodie realtor.
Sweet.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Jenny does veteran loans. She specializes in VA loans too, I remember. So for all you veterans out there, which you are a veteran.
Hardly, but yeah.
Hey, it counts, man. We appreciate all you guys, Jason, Zach, all you guys. Country wouldn't be what it is without you guys.
Before we get off, now that Zach, you've given your sponsors, I just want to give a shout out to Chris at Van Garrett Media. Appreciate you keeping things rolling for us and helping us with all the editing and the back end stuff of keeping our podcast rolling. Chris, I can't thank you enough, man. You and Shayla. Chris
Got the thumbs up.
He's on here, but he's muted. But he's helping us. Hey, Zach, thanks again for coming on, man. It was exciting having you on. It was a great podcast. For your first podcast, I thought you did pretty damn well.
Yeah, I was nervous. Can you tell? My hands are all clammy.
Dude, you were rolling, man. That's perfect.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for having me on.
Well, hopefully we can get you on with maybe some fight news here in the next couple of months once we get rolling.
Always. Absolutely.
News.
Cool. Thank you, Zach. Appreciate it, man.
Right on, brother.
Well, thank you.
That's it for our podcast today. And we out.